Welcome to Trump Tower. It's Jeanne Ives here with Breakthrough Ideas. We are at the kickoff for the Illinois Freedom Caucus. They just got done with their press conference, and I'll be doing some podcasting with some of those members. But to start things off, we have with us Senator DeMint. Senator DeMint is part of the Conservative Partnership Institute, and he flew in this morning. Fortunately, your flight was on time for the 11:30 presser. And so, Senator, thank you so much for being here and being a part of this initiative to bring conservative policies to a desperately needed state of Illinois. So could you tell us a little bit more about what you're doing here?
Jeanne, it's great to be with you. It's great to be in Chicago. It's always been my favorite big city, and I'm sorry to see what's happened to it, but bad policy can tear up a city. When I was growing up, the jewel of the United States was Detroit, Michigan.
Wow.
It was the per capita, the highest income in the country. People even went there on their honeymoon. But bad policy, run by Democrats over so many years, has pretty much destroyed it. And they're trying to rebuild it, but it takes generations to correct that. And I don't want to see that happen to Chicago, but it's certainly taken a turn for the worse because of bad policy. But what I've seen and what encourages me is the states can make so much difference, so much more than we can in Washington, D.C., where I've worked for the last 25 years or so. And it only takes a few people.
That's right.
And we've seen the impact of 30 or 40 people in Washington that are called the Freedom Caucus, who just are willing to stand together and get each other's back and go out and charge the hill. And sometimes you think, well, how could that small little group, out of 400 people make a difference? But they have, and they push things in the right direction. More importantly, at a time like this, they can stop really bad things.
Yes.
And when you can't stop it, you can at least offer amendments that show how bad something is. And you can force people to take bad votes so that the folks know that what policies are passing. And that's part of the problem here in Chicago and around the country, is a lot of times these people who are voting for leftist politicians don't really know what their vote is or what their policy really means. So it's, for me, an honor to just see people who are here willing to stand together against the majority and many times against their own party to try to push things towards what we call an American majority.
An American majority. You're absolutely right. And what a glorious view we have here. We're looking at some of the best architecture you can find in the entire world. And atop the rooftops here, and I don't know if you guys can see it online, but you've got American flags flying. It's just a beautiful scene. And you look below, and unfortunately, if you look even underneath the foundation in Chicago, we sit as a city in Chicago that is in worse debt situation than Detroit was when Detroit went bankrupt.
Right.
And that is due to bad policies. And so you're speaking to my heart here, because part of the reason we started Breakthrough Ideas was really to connect ideas and policy to individual voters so they understand the games being played against them and their families and their businesses.
Yeah,
that's the deal. We don't talk about it enough.
I know they're not stupid.
No, they're not.
But
they just don't know.
If you look at what the media reports and what you can really find out, it's hard to find out what's really going on. And if you think, well, this guy's mean, he's a Republican, I'm not going to vote for him, this guy's nice. But if you look behind the curtain there, you see this nice guy is just pushing policies that make our lives worse. Right. And that's what interests me. I'm not interested in political ideology. Conservative to me means knowing what works and figuring out how to keep it.
So on that vein, this is the beauty of, honestly, unfortunately, COVID occurred, but we had this situation where governors treated policies differently. And so I think in America, you've seen an awakening of how different states reacted differently, and those outcomes are starting to come to light. And so I think people are becoming more aware of how individual policies brought on by politicians can affect their lives directly.
Oh, yeah, particularly parents when it comes to schools. So many parents were able to see what was coming in this online learning and what the textbook said. And now a lot of states like South Carolina, who thought that wouldn't happen in South Carolina, they start going through the the textbooks, and they're teaching these kids that the white people are racist. Things that just don't make any sense, and they're not good for anybody. And so I think just having people engaged and sometimes a little bit angry is very helpful. When I've been traveling around the country in the last couple of months, and there's more interest in people running for school board than people running for Congress. It's just because, like you said, they start to understand how policies affect their lives. But again, a lot of people here, I bet, don't know that policies have been passed over the years that make it harder to do business, harder to live here. It puts power in the hands of like teachers' unions rather than parents, and unions rather than business people. And after a while, people just decide to lock up and move someplace like South Carolina.
Yeah, well, we've seen a lot of outmigration that way. I mean, it's not just regular people. We're one of only a handful of states who lost population over the last decade. Yeah. We lost one congressional seat here in the state, and but now we're losing businesses. And then again, of course, what was announced is just this morning, Boeing headquarters is leaving the state of Illinois.
Yeah, well, that sends waves out. It's not
ripple
just
effect.
Boeing, and it's not just manufacturing. This is a headquarters. I mean, this is white collar, downtown workers that are leaving, and that just should be a wake up call for a lot of people. That eventually, particularly today, when there's so much done virtually and online, that you can put your headquarters anywhere, and you're not going to be in a place where you're taxed and regulated, and it's not a good living environment, not a good education system. And whenever a city gets in debt or a state gets in debt, good businesses know that sooner or later they're going to be taxed, particularly businesses, because voters don't feel it as much when businesses pay more taxes. But people looking at this as a place to locate, they look at the debt, and they say, no, that no matter what they offer us for the next few years,
that's right,
it's going to come hit them on the head.
There's a debt bomb coming in the state of Illinois particularly, and in the U.S. government writ large. So listen, we appreciate what you've been doing at CPI to bring conservative policies to light and to support politicians who do.
Well,
so,
I encourage people to go to cpi.org.
Okay.
And just find out what we do. We'd love to have people on our email list so we can keep them informed on what's going on behind the curtain in Washington.
Well, terrific. Thank you for sitting down with us. Appreciate it.
Jeanne.
Okay. So we just had a press conference with 5 Illinois House members. They're Republicans, and they've started the 5th State Freedom Caucus, the Illinois Freedom Caucus, and it's a movement across the state to essentially look at policies. It's not necessary, while they're probably going to delve into politics, no doubt about it, but it's really a policy group to analyze and look at all the policies that come by, the bills that come by that will be specifically analyzed for whether or not it moves the state forward, whether or not it makes an individual more prosperous. So that is the essence of what we're trying to do here with the State Freedom Caucuses. And I'm just, I got invited to come by, so that's what I'm doing. All right. Okay, Chris, we're going to have on with us Chris Miller briefly. Welcome. Thanks for joining my podcast. You guys, you may know Chris Miller. He is he's a Angus beef farmer from Oakland, Illinois. He is the chairperson of the Illinois Freedom Caucus. They just got done with their press conference. I really I love it because his Facebook page, half of it is just black Angus cattle, right?
Yes.
And okay, no, I would say a third of it's his farm, his cattle. A third of it is your family and all your children. 7 children. How many grandchildren?
Well, we just had our 19th grandchild on. My days are running into each other, but on Tuesday night, I think. You don't hold me to that, but we've been gone all week on the, campaigning and different things, and so my days are running into each other, but I'm trying to think. It was Wednesday night.
Yeah, so
Wednesday night.
your Facebook is basically a third black cattle.
Yeah.
A third, which is our Angus, right? They're Angus
Yeah, they
cattle,
are,
right?
yeah.
A third of them is your family, and the other third is like some policy stuff, right? I know that's his Facebook page, which is like one of my favorite things about your Facebook page is that it's real. It's not like it's just all policy all
Well,
the time.
there's one thing that we try to communicate with people is that we're just real people. That we get up
Absolutely.
every day. We're just like
100%.
them. We go to work. We have our struggles. We pay our bills. We work hard on the farm every day. I always laugh and tell people that my wife and I are probably the only people that are in Congress and the House of Representatives actually have calluses on their hands.
So I remember, and this is the funny thing about your wife. Apparently, she was whipping up an apple pie.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
and she posted a picture of this absolutely gorgeous apple pie. It looked like it came right out of a Martha Stewart's own kitchen. And some people were actually commenting on the Facebook picture that, oh, she just bought that. It's store bought. How fake. I was like, no, I'm sure the apples, she just got them out of
I can
the
promise
orchard.
you that we have an apple tree in the backyard, and she probably went out and picked the apples, came in and peeled the apples and sliced the apples and made the
That's the
crust for the apple pie and then baked it, and we all ate it. And
Yeah,
it
of
was really good.
That's the funny thing. I mean, people like you're real people dealing with real problems, and that's really why you got involved in politics, right? I mean,
absolutely.
You basically looked at this and said, "Look, we're farmers. We're here for the long haul, and as long as we're here, we're going to fight for good conservative policies." So that's what you guys did. You essentially have put together a team of at least 5, and I think there's probably more members that are wanting to join from the
Absolutely.
Illinois Republican Party, and you've created the Illinois Freedom Caucus. You're the chairman. Can you just give me a few comments on that?
Well, I think that when you kind of look at the foundation of the Freedom Caucus, most of us are at least either farmers or from an agrarian background, or small business owners. But anyway, we have practical life experience because as a farmer, we grow things, we solve problems, and we fix things that are broken. And we all know that in the state of Illinois, there's plenty of problems, there's plenty of things that are broken, and there's plenty of things that need to be fixed. And what a perfect group to set the foundation and set the North Star for these events that need to take place to restore Illinois.
Absolutely. So, I mean, we're sitting here in Chicago. Your farm is literally probably 3.5, 4 hours south of here. Illinois is a very, very big state. It's a very diverse state. And so, why is it a bunch of farmers that are coming forward with conservative ideas?
Well, I think that one thing is that most of us that are there, at least that came in 2018, it was out of frustration.
Okay.
Because the model for governing seemed to us to be more taxes, more borrowing, more spending, more regulation, and more corruption. And none of it was getting dealt with. And finally, you just get to the place where you're fed up enough to actually throw your hat in the ring, run for public office. As in our case, we were all elected in a landslide. And it's because we have common sense. And common sense isn't all that common in Springfield or Washington, D.C.
Well, I think your message is going to start to resonate up here in the suburbs in the city because they're just as frustrated with. And can you talk to me a little bit, because one of our biggest frustrations, and in full disclosure, I'm helping you with some of the communications work that you guys have done, and we did an energy tour in the state of Illinois, and yet the energy policy that they passed, the Illinois version of the Green New Deal, this is AOC's dream, legislation. They passed that. And now Ameren announces, hello, we're looking at rolling brownouts, blackouts this summer and price spikes. And they knew this was going to happen. And now, just like the crime bill that the Democrats had to back away with, there's now apparently going to be some sort of legislative fix on this energy bill that they passed that's a disaster.
Well, there's really no way to fix this mess.
No, there isn't. There isn't.
Because, we have...
Not at this point.
No.
You can't
no.
put new coal or new natural gas online fast enough to fix the problem that they've created over a decade.
Right. Well, the problem is that this has all been built on a house of cards. It's non-reality. This is fiction. This isn't science. This is political science, because I'm almost 70 years old, and as long as I can remember, there's been a man-made, self-proclaimed climate crisis. You know, during my lifetime, we were going to freeze to death. We were going to have acid rain. We were going to have the ozone depletion. You know, the ice caps were going to melt and we're going to lose Florida and California. But nobody told the realtors that was going to happen, obviously, because they've been building. Look at some of our former presidents. Where did they buy property? On the coast. And then we had the global warming hoax, and then now we have climate change. And one thing that I know in Illinois, we can celebrate climate change because we always have winter, spring, summer, and fall. And I don't know about you, but I enjoy the four seasons.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is an absolute albatross that they've created, you know, because they have destroyed the economy in Southern Illinois by their war on fossil fuels, because the lifeblood of Southern Illinois and where all the great jobs lie are in mining coal and drilling for oil and even natural gas exploration and even the nuclear power plants. You know, they're trying to dismantle all of this. And when you drive up and down the interstates at night, you feel like you're in a Star Wars movie with all the blinking lights. And it amounts to almost no impact on our energy needs here in the state of Illinois.
None.
And just know that this will be the biggest debacle and disaster that public policy has ever created in my lifetime and in your lifetime, and history will bear this out.
I 100% agree with that assessment, 100%. One thing I wanted to close out in on this thing, because I think this is a really important discussion for us. When we went around to all those different energy areas, we went to a nuclear plant, we went deep down into a coal mine, you guys were at another coal production facility, we looked at a solar field, we looked at windmills, we looked at all of it. But the bottom line is that the energy that we're producing right now was insufficient then. Every place that we went to was operating at max capacity, and so they knew when they started to pull off natural gas, and they signaled that you can't build natural gas that we want to get rid of it by 2045. When they said they want to get rid of coal by 2030, and then they were bullied into pushing it out to 2035. When they signaled all that, they knew that they did not have a replacement for it. But they've been doing this for over a decade, so there's no surprise. There should be no surprise to anybody listening that this is a man-made, created energy crisis in the state of Illinois that is replete with energy sources if our politicians would allow us to use them. I mean, they manufactured this crisis.
That's what, you know, when we think about this, I mean, there's a couple of things that really stick out to me. Number one, we invited the whole General Assembly to go on the energy tour with us so they could make a decision based on knowledge and not emotions, and not one person elected to join us. And so they were making a decision without accurate information. And I think that another thing is that there's always a cost analysis that has to be done in order to make good public policy, and they obviously ignored everything to do with common sense, practicality of meeting the energy needs of the people in Illinois. And think about this. Now, these people are putting coal on a train from Wyoming and shipping it to Illinois to be burned in our coal-fired plants when we have more BTUs of coal in Illinois than Saudi Arabia has oil, but yet we're transporting that all the way here and trying to talk to us about a carbon footprint. And another thing too is that we have the cleanest water, the cleanest air, the cleanest of everything here in the United States of America. We do a beautiful job. And what they have done, I'm a farmer, and they have taken so much sulfur out of the atmosphere that we now have to buy sulfur to put in our fertilizer mixes for maximum production. And one other thing that we need to keep in mind, does anybody remember in their earth science class about the photosynthesis cycle, where green leafy plants absorb carbon dioxide and create oxygen? It's incredible.
Well, this is exactly why we're thrilled that you're the chairman of the House Freedom Caucus. We're thrilled that you guys started this because it's a policy caucus. It is a policy caucus. And so that is what this is about. This is about really good policy and bringing those ideas to light. Thank you so much for joining me on my podcast. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Terrific. Great. Andy, could we get you on for just a couple minutes? Awesome. Terrific. Great. Thank you.
Who have you had so far?
We had Senator DeMint and we've had Chris.
All right.
So yeah, great. Cool. This is great. So welcome to my podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for having
this is
me.
terrific. So we do this about twice a week, and We have experts on, like I had the Heartland Institute president
sure.
on just last Monday, and we talked about energy policy.
They do good work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do great work. We talk about everything from your local school boards and what's going on to high-level stuff with energy. So Andy is here. Andy Roth is the head of the State Freedom Caucus. And so just today, we kicked off your 5th State Freedom Caucus, right?
that's
Could you
right.
talk a little bit about how did this even get started? Whose idea was this?
Sure.
What prompted them to do this?
So when I worked at the Club for Growth, that's where I worked previously for 18 years.
Okay.
I worked with a lot of state lawmakers all across the country. And I know Justin Ouimet, who is now with
great.
us. He was executive director of the House Freedom Caucus. And all of the state lawmakers were coming up to me saying, we need a state freedom caucus in our state. I communicated that to Justin at the House Freedom Caucus in D.C., and we started thinking about different ways that we could make it work, and it became clear to us that we had to literally formalize the process.
Okay.
And so we started talking to a bunch of folks, and Philip Singleton, I want to give him credit, he's a state representative in Georgia, and he took this bull by the horns and really started to put together a Georgia Freedom Caucus. So they were the first ones, and we launched back in December. Almost immediately, we had people from all across the country call us up and say, let's set one up here, let's set one up here. And the great thing about Illinois is,
We're such a liberal state.
I know.
We need it more than anybody.
The great thing, though, is that in order to have a successful Freedom Caucus, you don't just need some really good conservative voters. You need a tight band of brothers, so to speak, because we work in a sleazy business, right? And
Unfortunately.
everybody lies to you. So you need colleagues that you can look to your left and look to your right and know that you can count on them when you get into a big battle. And when I met Chris Miller and his colleagues, we went out to his farm, Justin and I did, and we talked with him and Mary.
Did you feed the cows, too?
Yeah, no, we didn't.
feed
We
the
ate
cows.
the cows. But it was very clear to us that these guys are very close together and that they can count on each other. And
They have each other's back, yeah.
Yeah, and I can't overstate that enough. That means a lot, because there are a lot of other states with a lot of conservative voters, but they don't have that unity. And that's something that we're going to try and introduce as best we can to these other states.
Yeah, these guys have been working together for quite a while, whether it's on masking issues. They're the only ones who voted against the really sham ethical bill that then everybody had to walk back from. I mean, our legislative inspector general even resigned over it and said, look, I thought you were going to give me power and you've gave me nothing. This is a paper tiger. And these were the only 5 who voted against that scam ethics bill. So, I mean, they've done a great job already in kind of building this without a formal caucus.
Yeah.
And I think what you're going to find is you're going to find other members who want to join them.
Yeah.
Because this is, and the other thing I'd like to explain to people is like this, and I was asked actually by a reporter here who's here at the press conference, and most of these reporters are liberals, but she said, well, what's this all about? I said, well, really, it's a policy caucus first.
Yeah.
I mean, it's about good policy first, and the politics follow, but it's really about putting forward good policy, making good policy arguments, analyzing the bills for the right policy.
Yep.
Because, I mean, I sat down there for 6 years. I tell you what, sometimes, honestly, you can't even rely on staff all the time to think out of the box about how certain policy may interact with local issues as well. And so frequently it's like, not a good idea. Did you think about this? And so this is really a policy caucus.
Yeah, and truth be told, there are a lot of caucuses in the U.S. Congress. There's a fertilizer caucus. There's an automotive care caucus. There's all these different caucuses. And to be frank, they're all shams. I mean, these caucuses are just a nod to special interests.
Okay.
But the House Freedom Caucus is different because they literally get together and talk policy that you said. They also use procedures. They do everything in their arsenal to do what they said they would do on the campaign trail.
Right.
And so the Illinois Freedom Caucus is not going to be like the fertilizer caucus or the wine caucus or the sugar caucus. They're going to actually meet, get together, build a coalition of activists, donors, voters in the state and advance conservative policy. and we're going to help them do that.
Terrific.
So that's what we're here for.
Well, great. Well, thanks for sitting down with me. It's great to meet you in person. I've only
No,
all
it is
right.
good to
Awesome.
see you.
Thanks for coming, Andy.
Thanks for having me.
Terrific. Great. Good. I
want
think
me
we
to
should
get somebody
close up,
else?
maybe, or I don't know. Okay, is Demetra coming? Okay, we got one more awesome one before lunch starts, and then we'll get to it. Thank you, Andy. Yep. Okay. All right. Okay, so I hope you're enjoying this. We're enjoying the view here. It's absolutely lovely here at Trump Tower. Terrific. Okay, coming on is Demetra DeMonte. Demetra is our Illinois Republican Committeewoman, National Committeewoman. So yeah, if you could scoot up a little bit, that's great. Awesome. Terrific.
Good morning. Or
Good morning.
afternoon.
Yes.
How are
so
you, Jeannie?
I'm so great. It's great to be here with you. So you are the Illinois Republican National Committeewoman, which means you represent us to the larger Republican universe
Yes.
when you're out there.
Yes.
And so we're, Breakthrough Ideas is a policy group, but obviously we interview a lot of different folks, and typically when we talk to folks, it's about policy. So could you tell us? Let's talk about policy today. What do you what has been some of the policy topics and policy discussions that the National Republicans have been discussing when you guys meet?
Okay, well, policy maybe is not exactly it, but the huge thing that we did was we changed our rules so we can change the debate structure for the presidential debates, which has been
Okay, that's
absolutely abominable. About a year ago, Ron McDaniel, the chair of RNC, selected 12 people nationally to be on a presidential debate committee, and I'm honored to be one of those 12. We began in earnest to communicate with the Presidential Debate Commission. This commission is a, quote, nonpartisan group. They're non-governmental, but they've been putting on the debates, Jeannie, for since the 80s. Well, we feel the debates need to be improved, that we have issues. So we started communicating with them via meetings and via correspondence. We essentially asked for three things.
Okay.
The first, revolutionary, that debates begin before voting begins.
Oh,
Now that I know is really outlandish, but
Wow.
we asked for that. Second, we said that the moderators should not have worked for any of the nominees on the stage. Again,
Oh, like
we
Donna
thought
Brazile?
I know. And then the third, we asked that these, quote, nonpartisan commissioners refrain from any public statements during the debate process. Now, the backdrop to this, the majority, I don't know the exact number, but the majority of the commissioners made negative, disparaging remarks about President Trump during the process. So we asked for those three things, and they essentially told us, get lost. We're not going to work with you. So we passed a rule, which is very difficult to do, by the way. You have to get 75% of the entire membership, which is 168. So it's not just the people that are at the meeting, it's the 168. Anyway, the rule states that every Republican nominee or candidate has to sign a document that they will only be in RNC-sanctioned debates. And if they do not sign it, they will not be in any of our debates. If they sign it and if they go off and do another unsanctioned, they will no longer be part of our sanctioned debates. And that passed. Now, we had to do it now because any rule change must be done before 2 years before the convention.
Okay.
So you can't come out with these rules at the very last minute.
So do you think that this will actually work?
Yes.
Do you think so? So the Republicans they want to see all of our candidates can debate.
Yes.
So you think that the media, the people hosting these debates, are going to play by those rules?
Okay, well, what is going to happen is we are no longer affiliated with the commission. We are now going to put on our own debates. And I am on the subcommittee for primary debates. There's only 4 of us on that.
So all these national TV stations
it's
who want the debate,
It's baloney.
I mean, so they're not going to be able to, unless they play by your rules.
Well,
you're not going to see debates.
Yes, we are going to obviously we have to compromise. I get that, but we are going to. Yeah, we're going to make the rules. Yeah,
Awesome.
we are.
Okay,
we're
that's
going to make
great.
the rules.
Terrific.
And I am delighted. So that's not quite policy, but
that's a good-
it's
good.
policy for the RNC.
Yes,
so
it is
I'm very, very happy about that.
But I mean, I think that's right. I mean, these debates should occur prior to voting.
My gosh.
I mean, granted, they're going to have to they're going to have to come, a good 2 months before the actual day of election, but because you have early voting rules.
Well,
but
voters should have the right to see candidates side by side, right?
Yes.
Debating.
Yes.
So I'm delighted about that. But that was a major focus. So obviously, the big news right now is Roe v. Wade. I understand that with the Supreme Court leak, which is despicable.
Yes, the
Absolutely
leak. The
despicable.
leak is despicable.
It's despicable. Oh, yeah, absolutely despicable.
yeah,
But,
unethical, unprecedented.
oh my gosh.
A totally political move by whoever
Right.
who did it.
I know.
Yes,
I know.
yeah.
You know what? I was thinking this morning, and we could talk now. And I was just thinking this morning about abortion. And I was thinking when I was in high school. Now it's been a long time ago, but I went to Steinmetz High School, the
Chicago.
the west side of Chicago.
Yes.
All right. Do you know how many girls got pregnant in the 4 years?
No.
One in the summer of her senior after she graduated. No one got pregnant.
Yeah.
That is the way it was.
That
Nobody
was the standard.
Virtually no one was promiscuous, and you would never do anything like that because you would never want to crush your parents. I mean, it was a different mindset, but it's like, I know all the hullabaloo now about abortion and oh my God and all this and that, but you know what? You do not catch pregnancy, right? You don't catch it like COVID.
Yeah.
It's an active act, right?
Yeah, no doubt. There's ways to prevent it. We think we know why. I mean,
Exactly.
and yeah,
And
those,
so,
yeah. So
we will see.
and we're talking about 99% of the people who get pregnant. I mean, there's a 1% that are raped, and that's tragic and horrible, and that's
and I
something
would
to be
not
dealt
even
with.
say it's 1%. It's
Yeah.
probably less than that. But I know
But yeah, that's
is
the
horrible.
statistic. But yeah, it's
Absolutely
horrible. It's awful. But I mean, so what do you think about today?
I'm delighted to be here.
Okay, great, terrific,
I'm delighted
good.
to be invited, and I want to hear what is being said.
Terrific.
And
it's a nice turnout here. It's
oh
great.
my gosh.
Yes.
And
yeah.
For those of you who are listening who may not know me, I am a strong conservative. I know that you may not think there are conservatives in leadership in Illinois Republican Party, but I am.
But you
one.
are. Yes, you
I
are.
am one, unabashed. But as Jeanne knows, I get along with people because you have to work with them, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And I've been around for a while. I'm actually in my 14th year as National Committeewoman, which is amazing.
Oh my goodness.
I mean,
Well,
and
that is a history right there.
Well, it's a history.
You've seen a lot go on in 14 years.
Yeah, it's a history in that as a conservative, I'm able to stay.
Yes.
And to push, and I do push policy at the RNC. I'm just trying to think,
They have platform committees that are centered around policy, whether it's
Right.
energy policy, family policy, school policy. So there's a lot of policy discussion that happens within a party when it's forming its platform, and those are the discussions that you would take part in.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
I think people don't really understand what that's all about.
Well, as a National Committee woman or the committee, technically, well, not technically, we represent Illinois at the national level.
Yes.
Our responsibility really is to try to bring resources back to the state. But many of us also believe, and I believe, that we have a responsibility to represent our state via policy. So I have pushed policy. And some people don't like that because they say that's up to the congressman. Well, you know what? I know what goes on at the ground.
Okay.
Right?
All right. We're going to have to close out.
All right.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, it's a delight being here. And
Okay.
we'll see you soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.